We're going to get started on the Friendly City sweater. It is a sweater pattern with Patterns for Pirates, designed in both adult hourglass sizes and youth sizes. And it is pretty simple to go together, but it has a little bit of a different construction than a typical shirt. So this tutorial hopefully will help clear anything up that you have questions with. For any of the styles that you've chosen to sew today, you're going to need pretty much the same amount of pieces. You're going to need a front and back bodice. You're going to need 2 sleeve pieces, a neckband, whether it be scoop or crew neck for the adult sizes or just crew neck for the youth size. And there's also a turtleneck option. Sleeve cuffs if you decided to do this cuffed option, and then you need front bands and you need front bottom bands and back bottom bands, and you need 2 of each of those. We're going to get started by just prepping our bands. So here is the front band piece, and I'm going to first of all make sure that this is right side up. So we're going to lay one out with the right side up, and we are going to lay the second one on top with the right side down, so the right sides are facing each other. We're going to line all of our edges, so our short edge and then our curved edges here. Don't mind all of the fuzz on my black fabric. And we're going to go ahead and sew along this entire bottom edge. All right, we have stitched along that entire bottom edge, and so we are going to just flip this right side out, and I would recommend that you make new best friends with your iron and the steam of your iron, because you are going to want to press and steam all of these bands that you create today, because we need to make sure that these curves lay nice when we not only attach them to the pattern, but when you're wearing it. Because they're such steep curves, you're really going to want to steam those out and press them and make them look great. So I'm going to head to my iron and do that. I'm going to press that bottom edge. All right, our band is all pressed neatly. And you can, if you want to, run a top stitch along this bottom hem. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, that's obviously a preference that you can choose. I do recommend the bands, and I'll show you just with the pattern pieces themselves. The bands look very similar, but they're actually they're made with a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning they are exact. You will not be stretching these when you attach them to the bodice. And they are different shapes and sizes. So you want to make sure that we don't get them mixed up. So I would definitely recommend making some sort of marking on each of the bands, like the front, if you want to remember that you marked the front, that it is the front indeed, then that way you don't accidentally attach it to the back. That's great. I would also recommend adding a clip in the center or a pin in the center and marking your center point, so when we go to attach this to the shirt, that is easier for you as well. So here I am. I added just a pin to my front band, my front bottom band, just so I remember that this is the front. And I won't be adding a pin to the back. So then that way I can differentiate them as I just toss these aside. And we're going to do the same thing with the back bottom band. Lay one right side up. We're going to lay the second piece right on top with the right sides touching each other. We are going to sew along the entire bottom and then turn and press and steam and make it look all nice and mark our center point. And then we will get to more construction. Okay, the next thing that we are going to do is assemble the bodice. And you take one of your bodice pieces, this is my back bodice, and you keep it with the right side facing up. And we're going to place the front bodice right on top, matching the shoulder seams. And we are going to be sewing with our 1/2-inch seam allowance on both of these shoulder seams right here. We've got our shoulder seam stitched up. So you're going to open this bodice up, and we're going to lay it, so this is the shoulder, or this is the arm opening let me do that again just so you can see it. Here's our shirt. We're gonna open it up. So we've got it to the side here, and this is going to be where we attach our sleeve. So you grab one of the sleeves, and with right side facing down, we're going to match up the two side points. Oop, grab my pins here. So you want to pin the two sides first, and then ease the sleeve into your shirt. Add a couple of clips, and we are going to sew just right there. So that sleeve is now attached, and we're going to just flip our fabric over, go to the other side, and attach the other sleeve in the exact same way. So you just want to match up these end points. Here we go. And kind of ease the sleeve into the rest of the shirt. And we're going to stitch that up right there. So this is where the mildly tricky but totally doable part begins. You're going to take your shirt, and I just say open it all the way up, and so you just have the back bodice piece facing you. Let me see if I have this in frame here. Okay, so here's our sleeves, here's our side, and then here's where the curve starts to start. You want to grab your front band. So it's the back bodice facing up, and you're going to grab your front band, which we marked earlier. Haha. And you're going to place this short raw edge that's on this piece. So you see we've got this big U, and this is raw all along the middle. This is what's going to be attaching to the front. But this short raw piece is what's going to be nested into the side seam. And so we need to attach it right here. So we're going to take this piece with the raw edges facing like up towards the neck area, and we're going to pin it in place or clip it in place. And we're going to baste this right here. Let's go ahead and do the other side while we're at it so we can baste it at the same time. So again, we're just going to take this short raw point of the front band, and we're going to align it right here where the side seam ends and starts to go into this big curve. So we're going to place it right here. We're going to add some pins or clips, and then we are just going to baste it in place so it is ready for the next step. So we're going to baste both of these parts right here. Again, this band, the raw edge is facing into the sweater, and the curved edge is facing down. So we've got our back bodice piece facing up, laying in front of us. We've got our front band that's attached right here. Just we basted them to the sides. We're going to push it up and out of the way because we don't want to catch it in anything, because we are going to be applying our back bottom band now. So starting at the same exact point, but this time we're going to be matching up the long raw edges, and the curves are going to be going against each other a little bit. That's good. That's designed that way. It's going to work perfectly, I promise. So you're going to want to, before all this starts, I would recommend folding it in half, finding that middle point of your back bodice. And then here, let's open it back up. So now we've got a middle point on our back bodice, and we've got a middle point on our back bottom band. So let's start there. Let's meet these two bottom pieces, raw edges together, right sides together. And then we're going to go all the way up to our points here, and we're just going to start at this top point, and we're going to align it where we had basted our front bands on. So attach that there. We're going to go ahead and attach it on the other side too. So find this point. We're going to attach it right at the same spot on the opposite end. And now we're just going to ease these curves into one another. And it is a 1-to-1 ratio, like I said. So there shouldn't be any stretching, but because the curves are going in opposite directions of each other as you are placing these on each other, there's going to be a little easing, which just means you kind of just have to shift the fabric and make sure that it all kind of fits nicely. I'm going to turn it right side up because I can see it better this way. So I'm going to just grab my clips, and little by little, I'm going to make sure that our band is nicely fit all the way across the bottom of our back bodice. And you can use pins or clips. I like when I'm using a serger to use clips for all this stuff so I don't accidentally run over a needle. It's really hard to sew over a clip. So I think that's why many sewers prefer that, because we've all done the broken needle thing a few times and it's not always pleasant. So here we go. I'll flip it over again so we can see it from this direction. But we've got, this is our back bodice. Our front band is basted in place, but we're kind of pushing it out of the way because we're not sewing it right now. And we're going to start at the top corner, I guess, of our back band. Oh, my clip came off. And we're going to sew from here all the way down around this whole curved edge all the way up to the other point. So we're just, and it is going to be, our front band is sandwiched into all of this. So we're going to be attaching the front band just at that tiny little raw edge, but we're going to be doing the whole long curved raw edge of the back band from here to there. Okay, so here is what we just sewed. We've got our front band here pushed up and out of the way, and we just sewed along this entire bottom edge, right? So what we're gonna wanna do now is make sure that we're treating our bands like it's one piece when we go to sew this to the front bodice. And so if you want, here's our band pieces here. Flip both of them away from the body. And it's hard to see because, of course, I have black bands here, and so I'm gonna throw a couple of pins on here. But we're going to baste these bands to each other. So you see how this is the front band, or I'm sorry, this is the back band, and this is the front band. We're just going to baste them right here along that seam line where these two raw edges are meeting. And so they're going to act like one piece when we go to attach it to the front. Okay, we've got these bands basted together, and we're going to go ahead and flip this all the way over. So we have the right side of the front of the shirt facing us. And I would recommend, can you see the whole bottom curve? We're gonna fold this in half and just find the center of the front bodice piece on that long curve. So when we go to add the bands, we can line it there first, and it makes it a little simpler to make sure that we're getting everything where it needs to be. Okay, so we're going to take this whole shirt. We're gonna fold it in half with right sides together on itself. And we're gonna match everything up with, let's see, you can't really see it in frame here. We are going to match from the sleeve hem to the sleeve seam line, and then the side bodice on both sides. So go ahead and add some pins or clips to both of those. Make sure we get all these parts aligned. We'll do that on the other side here too. So it's folded with right sides together, and we're going to align our sleeve hem, our sleeve seam, sleeve hem, sleeve seam. A couple more clips. When we move this around, it's all gonna stay together. And then the side bodice. So all the way to that point. Okay. And then we're gonna do kind of what we did on when we attached the band on the back bodice. We're gonna take this, the back of the shirt, this is what's facing us right now, gonna kind of flip it up out of the way and pull our front band down so we can attach it. So we've already basted these seams, so they're already together, which is great. And you're going to want to match up your front band with the center points that you've marked on both your band piece and your bodice piece. And then we're just going to start easing the band onto the front, just like we did the back bodice. And we're gonna make sure we catch both the bands over here, which we basted together, so it shouldn't be a problem. The back bodice, or sorry, the back band is actually going to be on top in this instance, and the front band is going to be closest to the front bodice of the shirt. And here we go, just easing all of these curves into one another. Again, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so you should not have to stretch it, but you may have to ease it just slightly because it is a pretty wicked curve. And we're gonna ease it in over on this side too. And here's my pin to mark that I am indeed doing the front band here. I did it right. Okay. So then that is our last clip. And again, I don't know how much of it, I should have done a child shirt so it would fit a little bit better in my frame here. We are going to go from sleeve to sleeve seam down to the side hem, and we're gonna go all the way around this bottom edge, back up to the side hem, sleeve, and then the sleeve hem. So we're gonna make just one giant seam all the way around, and it's going to complete our bodice, and it's going to nest these bands into the side seam super neatly. Let's do it. Ta-da! We've assembled our shirt for the most part. Here, let's flip it right side out and take a peek. Here it is laid front side up, and like you can see, we got our bands all attached, and they nest really neatly into the side seam here to create this little V where you see it's all attached, everything's tucked in neatly to itself. And then when you wear it, it's kind of an open side, and it kind of has like a cute little flirty element to it. I dig it. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do is just add our neck bands and our sleeve bands, and then our sleeve cuffs, and then we will have a completed shirt. And then we will head to our iron and steam and press the living crap out of these bands to make sure that they lay as nicely as possible when you're wearing them. So to assemble our neckband and our cuffs, I'm going to just do them all at the same time, kind of, because they do assemble similarly, at least to get them into band form. We're going to take our neckband and we're going to fold it with right sides together and sew a 1/2-inch seam allowance along that side. And we're going to do the same thing to our sleeve cuffs. So with right sides together, I'm always checking to make sure what's the right side on these solid colored pieces. We're gonna fold it with the short edges meeting for both the cuffs and the neckband. And we're going to be sewing along the raw edges at 1/2-inch seam allowance for all three. All of our bands have a seam sewn into them, so now they're big circles. And we are just going to turn them on themselves to have the wrong sides of the fabric touching and fold them in half and just kind of match these raw edges to each other to create our cuffs. So here is one cuff, And again, the wrong sides are touching each other, so that way the seams are all tucked into the fold. So here is cuff number 2. And we're going to do the same thing with the neckband. We're going to fold it so it creates a neckband for us to use. So for all of these, grab my clips again, we need to find half points and quarter points on all of our band pieces. The seam line counts as 1/2, and so since we've got it folded already, I'm going to just add a clip on the opposite end of that, and then I'm going to take my neckband and I'm going to fold it. Here, I'll put a clip there so you can see maybe a little better since I'm working with a black fabric. And we're gonna match up those 2 half points and find quarter points for our neckband. So there's 1/4 and there's the other. My fabric needs to fudge a little bit back into place here. Okay, so we've got quarter points marked on our neckband, and then I'm just going to mark half points on our cuff pieces because it is a much smaller space, so it's a lot easier to assemble than a neckband is in terms of making sure that you're getting it even everywhere. So there are halfway markings on those, and we've got halfway markings on this one too. So let's add our neckband first. You're going to take your shirt and you want to match up the 2 seams on this neck opening, and that's how you're going to find your first halfway mark. So you're going to find the front, the middle front, and the middle back this way. So add a clip to the middle front and add a clip to the middle back. And then we're going to open it back up, and you see these side seams are not a halfway point. So you do not want to use those as a marking. We only use them when we want to be able to find middle front and middle back. To find the other quarter points, you want to match up those clips that you just added for middle front and middle back, and you will find the exact quarters of your neckline opening. And you see how much different it is from where the side seam is? So if we were trying to stretch evenly and we had quarter points marked on our neckband, but we had the quarter points off on here, the fabric would have been pulled a lot more in different places. You would have gotten scrunchy and, you know, and some like gathering looking stuff. It would not be pretty. So you want to make sure when you're doing neckbands that when you're finding your quarter points, you are not using the side seam. You are using the front and middle and then 2 quarter points. So let's grab our neckband and get it on here. We're just going to match up all of our quarter points with the quarter points that we found. We're doing it with right sides together. So if your neckband was directional, you want to pay attention to that. The neckband is slightly smaller than the neck opening, and that's just to help it sit nicer on your body. So here is the last one here. You see how it's slightly smaller? So when we go to sew it, we're going to be stretching the neckband to match the distance of the neckline, but we're not going to stretch the neckband, the shirt at all. You just want to make sure you're only stretching the neckband. And we're going to sew all the way around. And we've got the neckband attached. You're just going to flip that neckband up, and we are going to press this all at the end here. We're going to press it and have the seam line go down towards the body, and then you can give it a nice top stitch for a finishing look too. Let's go ahead and add the sleeve cuffs. So the halfway points are pretty easy to find on the sleeve opening also, since we've got this seam right here. We just lay it flat, and then we can, if you want to, some people just do it more visually, but you can add a clip there. And we're going to take our sleeve cuff and put it on top here, matching our halfway points. And again, just like the neckband, the sleeve cuff is slightly smaller than the sleeve opening, so you're gonna have to stretch it just a little bit while you sew. And let's go ahead and add the cuff on the other sleeve also. Mark that halfway point. Slip it over and then match up our halfway markings. And we are going to sew all the way around both sleeve cuffs. Now that your cuff is sewn, you just flip it away from the body and you press the seam towards the sleeve itself. Do that on the other side here. And again, just to finish it all, you want to give everything a good press. You want to give a nice top stitch on the neckline, and you can top stitch the sleeves if you want to. Honestly, you could top stitch the bands also. I haven't found that I wanted to do that yet, but if you wanted to give it a little bit more of a finishing look, you absolutely can. And you're ready to go wear your Friendly City sweater. I hope this cleared up some of the sewing methods, and I'm really super duper excited to see what you make with this new pattern. Have a great time doing it, and happy sewing, everybody. Thanks.